Hello, I'm Dr. Johnny Green. I'm a colorectal surgeon practicing at Kitsap Colon Rectal Surgery and operating out of Harrison Medical Center. We're going to talk about colorectal cancer today. Probably the two most important things to know about colorectal cancer is that number one, it's largely preventable, and number two, there are no early warning signs or symptoms. So by the time you know that something is wrong, it's bad wrong. And we may or may not be able to eliminate the cancer and keep it from coming back. But colorectal cancer starts out as benign little bumps on the wall of the colon that we call polyps. Those gradually become more and more abnormal and eventually turn into cancer. That process takes probably in the range of 10 to 12 years. So if we do a colonoscopy and find the polyps and take them off, we stop that process. As the polyps are pre-malignant lesions that can be removed before they get a chance to turn into cancer. And that will stop probably 90% of colorectal cancer. There are a number of approved screening, what we call screening measures for colorectal cancer, and those include flexible sigmoidoscopy, which is a short scope that can be done in your doctor's office that looks at the lower part of the colon. There's blood testing for the stool to see if there's blood in the stool that you can't see. There's X-ray studies called a barium enema, or in recent years there's the virtual colonoscopy that's gotten a lot of press. But most of us think that the best screening procedure is colonoscopy because that allows us to look at the entire colon and take off any polyps that are found. All of the other measures either only look at part of the colon or don't have the opportunity to remove any polyps that are found. And then if something's abnormal, we have to set you up for a colonoscopy to deal with what was discovered. We recommend that most people start having colorectal cancer screening at 50 if they are what we call average risk patients. And by that we mean no one in your family has had colorectal cancer or polyps, you don't have colitis, and you don't have a family history of other cancers that are associated with colorectal cancer, like early endometrial cancer. For those patients, screening should start earlier and be more frequent. For instance, if your parents had, one of your parents had colon cancer, you should start 10 years younger than their cancer was identified, or at 50, whichever's youngest, and then every 5 years. Whereas the average risk patient will be every 10. One of the questions that usually comes to mind if people are found to have colorectal cancer is, am I going to need a bag? Will I need a colostomy? And for most people the answer is no. Your colon is about 6 feet long, and unless the cancer that we find is very close to the anal opening, like right down here next to the sphincter mechanism, such that we would have to damage the sphincter muscles to get adequately around the cancer, you don't need a colostomy. If we're real close to the sphincters, we'll often do a temporary ileostomy just so that connection can heal real well before we have stool going through it. But the vast majority of patients don't need a colostomy or an ileostomy. Colorectal cancer is an equal opportunity affliction. So men and women get it pretty much equally. There's a little bit of a difference in distribution. Men tend to have a little more cancer in the rectum in the last few inches of the large intestine, whereas women it tends to be a little higher incidence in the proximal colon. But for the most part, the chances are equal. Colorectal cancer is imminently curable if it's found early. The recurrence rate for what we call stage 1 cancer, where it's confined to the wall of the intestine, is about 90%. And then it goes down substantially when you go to deeper layers of the colon wall or if you get lymph node involvement. It's about 50% cure rate if you have lymph node involvement, and if it's gotten out of the colon and gone to other parts of your body, the 5-year survival is down into the 5 or 10% range. So finding it early is really important. The patients that don't get discovered until they have symptoms have a much higher rate of being the stage 3 or 4 late development spread to other parts of the body by the time we find it. Well, the steps you can take to lower your risk of developing colorectal cancer is, first of all, get regular screening as recommended for your risk group. The second is eat a good high fiber diet. If you smoke, quit. Drink in moderation, and regular exercise. Now, those steps have all been shown in large-scale studies to reduce your risk of developing colorectal cancer. Well, alcohol and tobacco, along with some other environmental factors, increase inflammation in a lot of areas in your body, and the colon is not spared from that. And increased inflammation increases the risk of the genetic changes that happen that lead to development of cancer. Well, that's all for today in this discussion of colorectal cancer. If you have further questions, you can get a hold of me through our clinic website at kitsupcolorectal.com, and we'd be happy to hear from you. Thank you.